Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is the Manchester United versus Brighton preview. And who would have thought a Manchester United would be concerned about the visit of Brighton and Hove Albion? We've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference update. We've got links with James Rodriguez. We've got words from Ole as to why Premier League is no longer the priority and also why Mason Greenwood has not been good enough to play in the Premier League team. Lots to go through, plus Paul Scholes back in Ole and giving us his best Manchester United 11. Loads to get through, but let's get into Brighton straight away and say that's probably going to be our team that we select. McTominay and Lindelof, there are concerns about those, but I think both will play, even with Knox. Scott McTominay is that sort of player that will play with Knox 100%, and if he doesn't play, who do you play in the midfield? Pereira's not really a midfielder. James Garner, is he ready for a game like this? So I think we know that McTominay will play whether he's injured or not. Lindelof is expected to be back. And I think Greenwood will drop to the bench with Dan James coming in. Who's going to play in the number 10 position is the interesting thing. I think it will be Pereira. I know a lot of people are going mad about Mata. I think these people need to understand football, to be honest with you. Oh, Mata's been played out of position. Mata gives us so much more. I mean, look, we played against the pub team on Thursday night against Partizan. And if you don't realise that, then where have you been? And if we're going to play a pub team on Sunday or the week after, then play Juan Mata, because he'll get loads of space. He won't have to run around a lot, and he's still a footballer. Look, I'm too old to play football now, but the reality is, if you give me loads of space, I can pick a pass out, and that's the same with Mata. Mata played well against Partizan, but we're going to play Brighton in the Premier League. And one thing that's very, very, very consistent is that Juan Mata in Premier League games only lasts about 55 minutes before he's blowing out his arse. And also, he's just not physically quick enough or strong enough for the league anymore. So I wouldn't play Mata. I think I'd play Pereira. And I agree that all three of them are bad choices. But also, Mata played on Thursday night and he's old. You're going to get him to play in a high-intensity game against Brighton. So I think it will be Pereira. Obviously, Williams will play at left-back. Wan-Bissaka will play. De Gea comes in. So is that a team good enough to beat Brighton? Well, look, Brighton are a team, and Ole said this himself. Brighton have effectively had 4 wins on the trot. They haven't. They lost one of their games against Villa because they were down to 10 men. But they're a dominating team, and I think he's worried. I think he's concerned about Brighton. They're above us in the league. They've got 15 points. We've got 13. They've conceded 14 and they've scored 14, whereas we've conceded 13 and scored 11. Sorry, the other way around. So Brighton are technically the favourites coming into this game, and I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is giving them that credit. What Brighton do, and not a lot of people will know this, they do have a manager that sets them up a certain way, and they do try to play football, and they are a potential banana skin. However, on no scenario should Brighton be coming to Old Trafford and winning. So we can give them respect, and I think Ole's given them respect. We can be aware of what they're going to come and do. They're going to try and dominate the ball. But hold on a minute, this is Old Trafford. 75,000 people watching. 4th biggest wage bill in world football. You know, I can give Brighton some credit, but at the end of the day, this is 3 points. So he knows it, we know it. And also there's that risk element as well. He played a lot of first teamers on Thursday night against Partizan. This is a game 2.5 days later. I think he should have rested two or three other first teamers for this game. He's got to win this game. He made that risk. He went very, very, very strong against Partizan. Too strong. And we picked up a couple of knocks. He's got to win this game. And I think, you know, a lot of people getting excited about the way we played against Partizan. It was exciting to watch at times. It was nice to see us moving the ball around in the front three. But I can't take anything from that game. As somebody who's watched football for a long, long time, I take the positive of the result. I thought Rashford, Greenwood and Martial were very, very good. I wouldn't go as far as fantastic because of the opposition. I think that front three, and with Dan James in there if Greenwood's dropped, that front three will cause teams problems. The link-up play between Rashford and Martial was the best thing of the night. You know, you can pretend Mata's got a future. You can pretend, that result means something in the context of the Premier League. But the reality is, the one big positive was Martial and Rashford's link-up. Again, we've seen that they've got a telepathy also. And but United's problem is the same problem we've had from the minute the transfer window closed. Before we'd even kicked a ball in the Premier League, we all said that midfield's not good enough. And in November, it's still not good enough. So it's not a shock where we are. If you have no midfield, you will concede goals and you won't score goals. And the midfield's not good enough. I think the front three's good. I think the back five's good. I think the midfield's trash. And I don't like saying that about McTominay and Fred because I think they're trying really hard and I think both of them are showing signs that they can be potential United bench players of the future, and that will cause a lot of people a lot of frustration. But look, are you Manchester United mid-table club, or are you wanting to be Manchester United title-winning club? At the moment, McTominay's got the development in him, Fred's got the development in him. Maybe they can be top 4 first teamers for Manchester United, but at the moment, they're too inconsistent. And games will make them consistent, but anybody who says to me that Fred and McTominay are good enough to build a team around, well, why are we losing to Bournemouth? Why are we losing to West Ham? Why are we losing to Newcastle? Because they're not good enough yet. They're getting lots of games and they're playing well, but I think at the moment I would say McTominay's an Everton midfielder and Fred's maybe an Everton midfielder, and Everton are a mid-table team. So we need better. That's why the midfield's struggling. Partizan did get through our midfield quite a lot. They were just terrible in the final third in both games. So, but the biggest problem is not McTominay and Fred. I think, as I said, I think they're doing admirable jobs and they've got potential. The biggest problem is the number 10. We've got no link between the defensive side of that. And let's not forget, Fred and McTominay we're playing 2 CDMs, which is ridiculous against teams like Partizan, but we've been doing it all season. So, McTominay and Fred are more shielders of the back 4. The number 10 is the problem, whether it's Lingard, Mata or Pereira, they're not good enough, and that's a problem we're going to continue to have. But we knew it on day one, and we're going to continue to have it. The midfield is not good enough, and I think if you want to look at football from a tactical point of view, and you want to say, we created loads of chances against Partizan, let's do it against Brighton, there's 2 big things there. 1, the midfield ain't good enough. 2, there's a big difference between Partizan Belgrade and Brighton and Hove Albion. But United should be winning it. So what's Ollie said about this game? He said that, hopefully Scott and Victor will be back in relation to McTominay and Lindelof. He said 4 wins on the trot, and they're a dominating team, Brighton. So, obviously we've got to be wary about that. And we've got to be energetic and not let them get comfortable. And, he's spot on. If we are not energetic and Brighton start to get hold of the ball, they'll grow in confidence. So we've got to start well. And we do tend to start well. We started well against Bournemouth. We started well against Partizan. We started well against Liverpool. So we've got to start well. We've got to take those starts into a game like Brighton and make them feel under cosh. If we can get decent ball into the final third, we know that James, Martial and Rashford have got a penalty or a chance creation in them. They can do it. That's something against Partizan I would agree with. We created a lot of chances in that game. We won't create as many against Brighton, but we'll still create chances because Martial and Rashford work well together and Dan James is a threat. We've got to get the ball to them though quick enough. And that's always going to be United's problem, and that's going to be United's issues. He also spoke about the Cups. Now, this is interesting. He said, we want to win in the Cups because the Premier League is out of reach. Any trophy we will go after, but the league form has to improve. Now, some people have taken that as a negative, but I think it's actually a very honest statement from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We want to win any trophy, we'll go for it. We can't win the Premier League, we're too far off, but we've got to improve in the league. And I think the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, the Europa League, we are going to try and get to and win one of those, because if we do continue to struggle in the league, we won't even get into Europa League spots. So we won't even have Europa League football next year. So the cups are important for United. It's an admission of failure, of course it is. But what do you want him to do? People go at Ollie for being totally positive and having his head buried in the sand. Then he comes out with, the cups are becoming the priority, but we've got to improve in the league. It's an acceptance of we're not doing well enough in the league. And, talking about the game against Brighton at the weekend, what is your prediction for that game? Because I'm going to actually do something I never do. I always predict wins and people say, oh, you predicted we beat Newcastle, you predicted we beat Bournemouth, we'll definitely beat Bournemouth. I think we're not going to win against Brighton. And I'm doing a bit of reverse psychology here because we have to win. We've got to win this game. I don't want to talk about whether he'll be sacked if we lose. He certainly won't be sacked if we draw. I don't think he'll be sacked if we lose. I think United they're just going to go headlong with this, and I'll talk about what Paul Scholes said in a moment. But I don't think we're going to win. I don't think we're good enough to win. I don't think we played very well in the second half against Partizan again, and we played badly against Bournemouth. So Brighton will be refreshed. They'll have a game plan. United are going to have to do something they haven't been doing against Brighton to win, and I really hope that they do. And I am using reverse psychology by predicting we're not going to win. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw. I don't think United are going to win at the weekend. I think that Brighton are well rested, well organised, and that will cause us problems. And they'll win the midfield battle. And if they win the midfield battle, then it's always hard to win a game. If we're going to win it, we'll win it in 2 ways. We'll either turn up and put in a performance that nobody was expecting, and maybe win it 2 or 3-0. I hope that happens, or Brighton will waste their chances. We'll nick a penalty and win 1-0. They're the two scenarios I think we can win the game. But I think it will be a draw. I don't see us losing. Not at Old Trafford. I don't see us doing that, although we did to Palace. But I think it will be a draw. He also spoke about Mason Greenwood. This was very interesting. He said about Mason Greenwood that he's not shown his authority if he'd shown his authority in training week in, week out, he would have been playing in the first team. It's normal for a young player to have ups and downs, and he's had his downs, but he's on the way up now. So very honest about Mason Greenwood, because there has been a lot of us demanding that Mason Greenwood plays. And there's clearly something that's been going on in training. There's talk about family issues. Somebody mentioned that I don't want to get into that because I don't know the truth behind that. But the reality is, I think Ollie's correct there. Again, a young player coming up from the under-18s into men's football. It's an adjustment, and I think Jorty was talking about this on the watch along last night. I think also there is an issue with training. I think a lot of the players aren't fit enough, and I think how the first team gets coached could be very different to how the youth team gets coached, and maybe that step up. It's hard for them to play a couple of games in a week. And, there's definitely been issues with Greenwood in his form in training. And he's not been putting it in training, so he's not been put in the team. And there may be very good reasons for that. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer there, just sending a message out to the fans that, look, I'm aware that people have been demanding he plays, but he's not been putting it in training. He's on his way back now. So, I think that little bit of honesty, people will moan about it and say, well, he's better than Rashford. But if he's not been putting it in training, then I think that's a very valid argument from Solskjaer. And hopefully with Greenwood now, we'll start to see a little bit more consistency. Because he definitely is. If we pick up an injury at the weekend, he's the lad to come on up front, isn't he? Looking at that team on the left. Let me also just say to you as well that we have got a situation... let me just say as well, if you want to get a T-shirt from the United Stand, the link is in the video description for that. And we've got the green and gold, we've got the Class of 92 patterning on it. The link's in the video description. Get yourself one. It is the weekend. You can get one with us. And also the Christmas party at Hotel Football on December the 5th. Tickets are available. Get yourself down there. They're only a tenner for a ticket. You get a free drink on arrival. We've got DJ. We've got a live show. We've got the end of year awards that are exclusive to United Stand that you've voted for. Flex, Rance, Saeed, me, Adam. Everyone's going to be there. So if you want photos, meet and greets, I am embarrassed by that, but people do always seem to want them. You'll get your opportunity to do that as well. It's going to be a great night, and make sure you get yourself there. It's in Manchester as well. It's our first one in Manchester at Hotel Football, right next to Old Trafford. So I think we'll be able to do some photos outside there as well. Linked in the video description for the Christmas party. Want to see you all down there. But look, I want to talk about what Paul Scholes said as well, and then we'll talk about James Rodriguez. So Paul Scholes has basically said that he's backing Ollie. We know that. I mean, I said this. I had a few people moaning about this last night, and I don't mean any disrespect to any ex-legend. They're legends of the club, but I think Rio Ferdinand, Gary Neville, even a Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, they're in a position where they are, and I know not all of them, but as a collective, there is a hypocrisy because they're all backing Ollie because he's a United player. He knows the United way, and they know the United way, and he's one of them, so they're backing him, right? They're backing him, but the problem is that it comes across as hypocritical because we've seen them go in on Mourinho, we've seen them go in on Van Gaal, and you could argue that Mourinho and Van Gaal, well, the facts are there. Ollie's doing worse than they are, and the football's worse than they did. Let's be honest, it is. So it's a bit hypocritical as a collective when these ex-players went so in on Van Gaal, and Scholes really went in on Van Gaal and Mourinho, but there he is sticking up for Ollie, and that is a bit hypocritical. You can't hide behind that, and I think some people don't take notice of what they're saying because of that. But what Scholes said last night sort of gives some depth to why this might be, and he said, look, Van Gaal and Mourinho, they're not United people. They had that feeling that it was about them and not United. Ollie's a United man. He knows what it's all about. So that was a little bit of an explanation from Scholes as to why they're willing to give him this time. And he said, look, you've got to give him time. But he did say the words, I don't know whether it's going to work out. I hope it works out. And I think that is probably one of the big bits of honesty I've heard from any of the ex-players recently. Scholes is backing Ollie. He's backing him because he's a United man and he knows him. He hopes it's going to work out. We've got to see if it works out, but he doesn't know if it's going to work out. And I think that is pretty much how a lot of fans feel at the moment. He also said his best 11 for United when everyone's fit, and I should have put it up on the left-hand side. So you take Lindelof out for Twansibi, I agree with that. Luke Shaw comes in for Williams. I agree with that at the moment. I think that Williams will push him, but at the moment I would agree that Luke Shaw comes in for Williams. Twansebe comes in for Lindelof. Fred gets dropped, Pogba comes in. So it's Pogba and McTominay in the midfield. And then it's the same front three, but James moves to the left, Greenwood moves to the right, and Rashford plays at number 10. And that's Paul Scholes. And I think, you know what, Paul Scholes is such a creative midfielder. What does he think? How does he think that Rashford can play at number 10? I found that really, really interesting. Personally, for me, I think our best midfield is Fred and McTominay with Pogba in the number 10 position, and then the same front three, and Greenwood's on the bench still. But it's interesting that Scholes was like, no, we should be playing Rashford at number 10 and drop Fred and put Pogba in a midfield too. I don't like the midfield two for a start. I wouldn't play a midfield two, but it's interesting that he said that. Talking of number 10s, and get your comments in below. What do you think about Scholes' point there? Talking of number 10s, we've been linked with James Rodriguez again. We'll always be linked with James Rodriguez. I'm a big fan of James Rodriguez. I know some of you aren't. Real Madrid want to get rid of him. Real Madrid want Pogba. So there's talk of a deal for Rodriguez and Pogba. The problem with Rodriguez is he's got this almost a party boy thing, which I think is probably a bit unfair because I don't know what he gets up to in his personal time. But he's definitely got this inconsistent element to him. On his day, he's very, very good. But would you trust, is he 27, 28, James Rodriguez now, to come to Manchester United, who are on their knees, and rejuvenate us? I mean, he'd be perfect to play in that number 10 position. Absolutely perfect. You know, he's 20 years younger than Mata. He's 20 times better than Pereira and Lingard. So you're in that position with Rodriguez, where if it's nobody or him, you take him because he would improve us no end. You just drop him into that number 10 position against Brighton, and we suddenly become way more creative. Is he consistent enough? Is he just coming for the money? They're the problems. But we are stuck in that situation now. I said this the other day. Would I take Emre Can if we were in a strong position? No. Ex-Liverpool player, don't want him. Would I take him now? Yes, better than everything we got. Would I take Gareth Bale now? Well, if we're in a strong position, no. He's injury prone, he's getting old, he's expensive. Would I take him now? Of course I bloody would. So, yeah, I would take James Rodriguez. I don't think it will happen. It could have happened loads of times and it's not. But I do rate him, and I do think he'd be massively, massively better than what we've got. Because as I said, these people getting excited about Mata, playing Mata against Brighton, he's an old man in footballing terms, and he plays like an old man in footballing terms. If you give him the freedom of Old Trafford like Partizan did, he'll find some good passes. If you're a Premier League side that presses quickly, he's going to struggle. And also, he's not going to last more than 55 minutes. So Mata's no future at United. Pereira and Lingard, well, Lingard's done for me. I mean, he came on yesterday and he was absolutely atrocious again. I don't even know why Lingard's not on the transfer list at this point. He's been that bad, he should be on the transfer list. And I hate saying that because I know we all banter Lingard a bit because he's so in the public eye and then he's a terrible footballer. But his performances now are, you know, they're sinful. He should be on the transfer list. He's atrocious. Pereira shows glimpses, but I just don't think Pereira's going to progress to be a top 4 number 10. I think he'll be, I think he could do a job for Everton maybe off the bench. Whereas I think McTominay and Fred might develop into it. I don't think Pereira's going to. We desperately need probably 2 number 10s. It'd be interesting, I think, if Angel Gomez was fit, whether Ollie would have given him a chance, because Gomez is going to be like Williams and he's going to be like Greenwood. He ain't ready, but he might show glimpses that we can play him every now and again. We'll just have to wait and see. But my prediction is that it'll be a draw. Looking forward to it though. Please do smash a like on the video. This is your Manchester United versus Brighton preview. If you want to get your adored t-shirts, Manchester is red, or your green and gold, or your 1999, links in the video description for the t-shirts. It is the weekend. Get yourself one of those. And I'm back at 8 o'clock on Friday night and Saturday night. So whatever day you're watching this preview, make sure you join us for the live show. I think we could do with a bit of Q&A and a drink, couldn't we? So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And get your comments in below. Lots to discuss. Rashford as a number 10, says Scholes. Rodriguez, would you take him as a number 10? Do you think we're going to beat Brighton? Have we turned a corner under Ollie? Is Ollie right to focus on the trophies? What do you think of Ollie at the moment? What do you think of United? Where are you? And I will talk about that tonight at 8 o'clock actually. I didn't do it on the preview and I wanted to. Where are United now? Where are United now? I've got a very, very interesting story about that. Speak to you all later. Thanks for watching.